Starfield has a very intricate and just massive shipbuilding system. So I'm here in New Atlantis to kind of run down the basics of what you actually are going to require. So, starting off here, you need to find this person. This is your ship service technician. In New Atlantis, he's quite literally right next to your ship.
Hey, what can I do for
Once
you?
you speak to him, you can go to I want to modify my ship.
Sure, how about?
It'll show you your current active ship. You come over here to shipbuilder, and you can add on and modify your current ship. For instance, I could take pieces off. Like, let's say that I want to replace this Nova Galactic piece with a different, all-in-one berth type thing. It's will allow me to do that. But for simplicity, we're going to just delete the entire thing so we can start from the beginning. Now, I like to start with the cockpit because this is going to kind of set the look and tone of your entire ship. Now, you've got the Phobos cockpits, the Magellan, and the two different variations of that as the starter base. I have no skill perks in shipbuilding, so this is basically the same screen you're going to see. I'm going to go off with the light Phobos because it has the lower mass. It doesn't quite have as much cargo, but that mass and space is a little bit better for early ships. Now, this would be more of a light ship, and it's kind of like a light fighter style. Now, it has a built-in cargo space of 200, a hull of 5, that's basically the hit points, and how many crew you can assign to it. Crew basically repair a ship and help it run more efficiently. Later on, you can add more crew to a ship. Now, from here, there's two ways to kind of add additional pieces. You can just go back to hitting G, open this up, and we're going to go to halves. Now, halves are the actual space that you walk around in. Now, as you can see, there's different sizes and different designs. But for right now, we're going to discuss the one by one. The companionways are your hallways. They also add ladders easier between levels, so they add a little bit more control sometimes to adding those different areas that you want. Let's start with the Demos all-in-one berth. That gives me 2 passenger slots, so I can carry a few more companions with me. We will then add the companionway here, which will allow me to add this. And you know what? Let's add a workshop too. Workshop actually has crafting halls and stuff. Like, you have a spacesuit, a weapons bench, and the industrial bench in there. Now, each one of these with the little dots underneath it has a ton of different variations. Some add features, some are more decorative. For instance, the armory is more of a decorative place, which has like mannequins and stuff that you can actually put armor on. Maybe you want to carry a different style of armor for different types of planets. The captain's quarters, once again, is kind of like a personal space. Now, you have different variations of each of these. The Nova Galactic has a different interior than the actual Demos does, as well as other brands. Now, let's do one last thing here. I'm going to add an additional one of these, and I'm going to place this underneath. Now, as you can see, I can actually raise and lower this by R and F. This will allow me to snap underneath things easier. I have placed that there so that I can come over here to the landing bay, or bays as they call it. Now, depending on the landing bay you have, they have different hard points. Now, as you can see here, this one's got ones on the top and on the back. By raising this, I've now snapped that in to the one here. Theoretically, it should create a ladder from here to here. So I will walk in, I'll go through, and walk out there. Now, I can use different styles of these as well. There's 2 of them right here. We'll go with this one. As you can see, it cannot go straight underneath the cockpit because of the design of the cockpit. But right there, it's fine. It fits and, you know, slides right into it. You can even see right there the basics inside. Now, you need at least 1 landing bay to basically get in and out of your ship. We're going to talk about dockers next. Now, dockers are a bit of a weird item. They have to go on the outside of your ship. So, it can go on the bottom or the top. Some can go on the front and back. But the biggest thing is, it has to be on the absolute outer edge. Now, as you can see, this one here, I can flip it so it can be on top or bottom. That little circular ring that's spinning, that shows you the dock. Let's just throw it underneath for the moment. And that will allow you to dock from the bottom. That gives us additional space on the top that we can work with. That said, it is personal choice. There are different versions of the dockers. You can have a very slim one that can just be placed on top of the hull. Ones that are basically individual pieces. These pretty much weigh the same and do the same thing. It's just build from there. Now, engines are up next. Now, the biggest thing with engines is the amount of thrust they give. As you can see, it has engine thrust, how much power it's going to require, and maneuvering thrust. Now, depending on your mass, your mobility will change based off of the actual maximum thrust. Each of these actually has a different design to them. For instance, these here are very easily snapped to the sides like this. Whereas some other ones are larger, like these white dwarfs. But they also have larger outputs. My biggest recommendation is really start building your ship before you really look into putting these on. You can put them on. Now, these are B class, for instance. You can't use those. This is your standard version of the ones that came with your original ship. You can see here they require 3 power, have 10,500 engine thrust and maneuvering thrust. Now, I like to do these a little bit later in the ship so I can actually figure out how much I actually need. Because if I had a bunch of them and I don't really need them, I might have just really spin up a lot of points. Now, here we go. We have hydrogen 3 tanks. Now, this is basically how many jumps in a row you can have. It automatically refills after every jump. This is just how many you can fly in one shot. So you have to have at least one of these on the ship. At the same time, you can have more of these. It'll just let you jump farther. Comparatively, the grav jump is actually how far in a single thing you can do. So, for instance, this one right here, we'll look at this largest A class here. It has the ability to jump 30 light years at this current size. So, if I snap that down there, this ship currently has a range of 30. As the mass goes up, the distance goes down. Whereas the fuel tank is going to let me, if I have a 70 light year fuel tank, it will automatically let me jump twice in a row at this range. That way, I don't have to just jump and then wait, then jump and wait. It's just going to let me jump farther. I could put a ton of fuel tanks on this and make a very small ship that's an explorer. Or I could have very few fuel tanks if I don't mind doing a couple extra, loading screens. But for now, let's go over here and we'll add one of these top style ones. As you can see, that's 50 and 70 fuel. We'll do the smaller of the two. Come up to the top. There we go. Now, we have got the docking port, we've got the companionways. We need an actual reactor to power all this. Now, reactors basically give all the power of your ship. When it actually teaches you in the tutorial, moving power back and forth between weapon systems, this is where it's getting that power from. So this is your standard 14.1. Down here is an 18 point. Now, they have actually a maximum power generated, how fast they repair, how much damage they have to take before they're disabled. They will auto-repair as long as your ship is not dead. Even if these get damaged, they will fix themselves. You do not have to gas up these ships, so you don't have to worry about any of that. It's just the maximum ranges you can move and do. So we'll start with this one here. Place it on top for right now. So with that, I have 18 power. It actually shows me how much power I'm using, how much equipped power output is. So if I had a bunch of thrusters on this, it would actually affect that. Now, let's look at shields. Depending on the shield design, it goes into different locations. For these, can only go on the side. That can only go on the top. This one can go pretty much anywhere. Shields have the actual maximum health of your shields, but it also has the maximum power. So if I put 3 energy in, this will be 310. If I put 4 energy in this one, it's 355. So sometimes you have to be thinking, does that extra 30 or 40 points of shields matter as much as, say, having more thrusters, the ability to jump in and out of combat faster, and so on? As you get more and more technologies unlocked, you will get much better shields than this. But you can only have one of these as the key point. You can't just buy 4 small ones and put them on. So, for right now, we're going to take this kind of little one right here. Now, because the docking port is on the bottom, I can just snap that right there to the top, and it's barely noticeable. But that is going to give me shields, the ability to jump. I've got living space inside of it. It is starting to cost a lot of money, though. Some of these parts are very cheap. Some of them are very big. Structural is the ability to actually add different, like, dimensions to your ship. For instance, the Deimos hull right here. This doesn't actually add living space like the other one does, but it's kind of giving me the ability to create a shape. So, for instance, let's say I put it right here. I grab a second one. I can put that. Now, this won't actually add anything more than just hard points, but now I can go back to those thrusters and say, well, you know what? Let's grab some of these. You know, it's like, well, maybe I like these. But you have to watch out about that engine thrust. See here, 3 power, 4,000 for 100 mass. That is not very good compared to this one gives almost double. And is slightly less weight. So you want to really be looking at that weight to thrust kind of ratio. Some of them are just better. Like this one here only requires 2 power, so you're going to get a lot higher output with less generator use. But let's say I'm going to choose this one for right now. See, I can actually put these now all across this if I so choose. And that would give me the ability to now kind of hard walk and, you know, like actually build up onto hard points this in a more organized way. And that would give me quite a lot of mass but it gives me good mobility. But at the same time, if you look here, I'm getting an error that's saying I don't have enough landing gear for the mass. So that is the next thing you need to worry about, is your landing gear. Now, you've got two primary styles of landing gear here. I'm going to use this one. It's a little bit smaller. These don't actually have to make sense, but the biggest thing is they have to be up against the ground. Now, as you can see here, I got an error just now. That is because the ship has too few landing gears, but it's also not on the right area. So I'd want to exit out. I'd want to grab that, move up one level. Now that layer has gone away because I've put it in the right place. So I'd switch this one to the back. We'll put it right there, come around to this side. Now, as you can see right here, it's giving me a warning, a new warning. I don't have any weapons. Now, before we put any weapons, we're going to do one last thing. And we're going to come over here to cargo. You want to add some extra cargo. There's a lot of things in this game that you're going to want to grab. Be thinking about that. The different ones of these have different shapes. Certain ones go different areas. These, for instance, go more on the side. These bigger cargo blocks, they have a lot of mass to them, but they can add a lot of space. So we're going to add some of these to the side. Make this thing into like a little bit of a freighter. You see my mobility and jump range are now dropping because of that. Now it's giving me a warning on mobility. This doesn't actually stop you from using this. It just means your ship is going to be slightly slower than another ship of the same type. So if I want to worry about that a little bit, I could just, for instance, say, well, maybe instead of 6, I'll put 4 until I get a better engine or some more money. Now, there we go. We got cargo. We've got everything here. Now we need weapons. Now, depending on your style of weapons, you can actually come up with quite a few different ones. You've got the cannons, which are the standard issue of your original ship. Now, these actually hit hull really hard. They have about 800 range and a fire rate of 3.49. That said, they're really weak against shields. You've got the autocannon here, which is basically the exact same thing, but it does a little bit less damage with twice the fire rate. These EMPs have the ability to kind of stun enemy ships. So if you just want to build a ship that is designed to, you know, drop down on a planet, you don't want to deal with pirates, you can just stun them and run. The lasers are good against shields, but not very good against actual hull plating. You've got different variations of these that have different bonuses. Some have higher fire rates. Missile launchers have to be locked onto, and their rate of fire is actually pretty slow, but they have really good ranges, and they actually hit pretty hard. For instance, this one does 47 damage to both hull and shields, whereas the laser only does damage to 4 and 14. So when you walk onto a ship and you hammer them with some missiles, you can actually do a lot of damage with these. If you don't want to really worry about your weapons, you can also get these disruptors. Now, these things are basically all-purpose, you know, particle beams, and they do the same amount to both. They have really good range. If you're a person that just doesn't want to worry about debating which weapon to use, you could just slap some disruptors on this and some missiles and just go to town on pirates that run into you. So let's say we'll use 2. We'll figure we'll do 2 disruptors. Put that to the side for right now. We're going to do 2 disruptors and a missile launcher. Kind of give us a little bit of extra firepower with that missile launcher. But at the same time, I don't have the hard points for this. But that is where structure comes in again. Now, as you can look, some of these actually are designed to actually do different jobs. So if I kind of scroll down here, I can look around and go, okay, well, I can look through all these, but what I can actually do is I can just come right here, hit G, and now it'll only show me pieces that can fit right there. So let's say I go like this, then this hull plating. Well, this actually has multiple hard points now. As you can see, these can only go on top of something. And then, as you can tell right here, I can't put it right there. That is because you need to find a specific piece here, which is called a equipment. Like you have the weapon mounts here, for instance. These are the things you're looking for, because once you snap that into place, there you go. You've got an actual point that you can actually snap that to. You put your missile launcher right there. You come over here, flip that. There we go. We've got all of our weapons attached. Now this is a fully functional ship, except that we don't have these weapons actually hooked up. We want to go over here to, if you look here, it says flight check. See, it tells me I have low mobility, I'm missing weapon slots, and I don't have any of these. Well, we're going to assign these to the left mouse button. We're going to do the missile launcher to the right mouse button. It's telling me I have 2 warnings now. It's telling me I have low mobility and missing weapon assignments. Now, basically, this ship is ready to fly, even though it is. I could keep upgrading it, but for all intents and purposes, you know, I've got my grav drive, I've got my fuel tanks, everything about this is good to go. Now, the last thing I want to do is, I will want to double click it again, open up color. I can just paint job the entire thing in one shot. We'll say, well, we go, okay, that doesn't look that good, because these, certain of these just have their own specific color. So maybe we want to darken that just a little bit to kind of blend everything in. We can come over here, do the same, give it a little bit of a paint job. We hit enter. Last thing we'll want to do is you can come up here to your crew again, rename the ship. You can rename it whatever you want. You just hit enter and pick whatever name you want on that. Now, then all you gotta do is come here. You say, okay, I want this ship. Now you can see the ship that I just finished showcasing, all done right there. I walk over to it. I can now walk into this.
You, Captain?
Now, I have a door. As you can see, I actually go down. That was that extra little companionway. I could throw stuff down here. You could throw things on the floor. But see how it actually made the stairs exactly where the companionway is. Now, you don't actually have to put that one down there. Certain certain ones of these docking ports will actually allow you to either have a 4 like this, or one that connects into there. We've got back here, we have got our actual hatch that will lead out to the docking port for when we're actually docked to another ship. We've got our crafting benches. You can see I got my research lab, spacesuits, weapons workbench. Basically everything you can use. As we move forward, this is the actual living area. You got your beds. You can actually sleep in this one. You even have the galley, which you can actually do cooking. So this is pretty much now a full-service mobile outpost. Finally, we've got the cockpit. This is the cockpit we chose. As you can see, it's got all the normal little jump seats, things like that. Up here, I've got where I can actually put my equipment. Now, I just jump in the cockpit chair. Now, once we're out here in space, you can see that we've got the shields up and everything else, but you can see that we have these particle cannons. Missile. So now I've got a fully functional ship that can maneuver around and do things. I can do whatever I want in the game. I hope this maybe helps. This is a very, like I said, it's a complex system. The biggest thing is, play around with it, have fun. If you're really worried about it, just make a save right beforehand. Even if you completely and totally mess it up, you learned something, you can reload it. And if you did learn something and you had a little fun with this, give me a like and subscribe. It does help. I am going to keep trying to make more stuff like this to hopefully make complex systems a little bit less painful.